Nice people, that's all I need, mainly because I did a gig 2 nights ago. I've just been down in London. I'm going to tell you this story. I've been a comic for about 10 years. 2 nights ago, I said the worst thing I've ever said to a heckler in that entire time. Doing quite a big gig down in London, about 200 people in the room. One kid sat in the front row, not laughing at anything, spent the whole time staring at my feet, until he decided he was going to interrupt with the weirdest heckle I've ever received. And he stood up, pointed, and just went, "Oi, mate, your shoes are really dirty." It's not a heckle you expect to receive, right? But you've got to do a comeback. Mine wasn't very big or clever. It was just the first thing that popped into my mind. And I said, "Why, thank you. I bought them to match your mother." Yeah, see, that's not the point at which I went too far. Because this kid did not want to play. He folded his arms, he stood up, he turned round, he dropped the nuclear option, the playground bombshell you can't come back from. He went, "This guy can't talk about my mum, because my mum's dead." Well done you, you'd have done an excellent impression of how tense it got. The entire crowd went deathly silent, staring at me, waiting to see how I was going to handle this situation. The only voice that I could hear in a room full of 200 people was the tiny little one in the back of my mind going, "Sam, that thing you just thought of? Fuck me, don't say that." But I couldn't help it. I had no time to think of anything else, and before I could take it back, the words fell out of my face, and I'd said out loud, "I know, I had to dig her up. Why do you think my shoes are dirty?" I'm glad you laughed. Because I am legitimately never allowed to play that gig again. Well, what can I tell you? They've only got a short set here tonight. There's only so much I can tell you about myself. My name's Sam. I'm 31 years old. I'm one of 4 children. The only reason I exist at all is because my mother was incredibly stubborn. She only ever wanted one daughter. She just kept trying until she finally got one. And then, unfortunately, on Beth's 6th birthday, we kind of realised that she'd made a fatal error, and what she'd actually produced was boy, 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 lesbian. Which is absolutely fine. It was just quite funny to find out that the 3 of us had put so much testosterone through that womb that nothing straight was ever going to survive. It's like my mum, bless her, had been waiting for years for that Barbie she'd always wanted, finally opened it on Christmas morning. Which one did she get? Oh, it's the Big Anne's Barbie. You can't fucking stand Ken. Like, what does it come with? Well, 7 pairs of Doc Martens and a tool belt, obviously. But I'm proud of her, because she's always known exactly who she is. And we live in this weird world now where people are a bit kind of reticent about exploring who they might be as a person, because this is a gig full of young people. And young people should always, at some point, do something that challenges their boundaries and something that maybe challenges their expectations of themselves. That's how you grow as a person, by having enough life experiences. Basically, all I'm getting at here is if any of you, as a younger person, get the opportunity as a 21-year-old man, when off your tits or off MDMA, to receive a blowjob from a very skilled and enthusiastic gay man who insists it will be fine, then you absolutely should. And don't get me wrong, right, it might confuse you for a little while, but there will come a point when you're, I don't know, purely hypothetically, let's say 31. When you can just look back on it and appreciate it for the technical masterpiece that it absolutely was. Because that's all it was, basically. I went to university and it just turned out through chance that everybody I lived with and everybody that I made friends with happened to be a gay man. I'd go out with them all the time. Just had a good time, never really thought anything of it, but got propositions so often, it just got to the point where I started thinking, well, you know what? I'm almost certain this isn't my kitchen, but fuck it, if you're cooking, I'll eat it. And the one thing that confused straight men will always ask me when they find that out is like, well, yeah, that's for some reason not quite as gay as the other way around. Like, did you do it back? But if you go into someone's house to eat, you bring wine. And it doesn't threaten my sense of self whatsoever. I'm not threatened by that idea because lots of straight men can't cope with that as an idea. I know exactly who I am. It doesn't threaten my sense of sexual identity. I know exactly who I am. I'm a 31-year-old straight man who happens to be bisexual on a technicality. That technicality being that once at the age of 22, I bummed a man so hard he cried and then thanked me. Doesn't hurt to find stuff out, that's all I'm telling you. This is what I mean, like, sometimes you can get away with being a bit rude and going to these places and just, like, having a bit of a laugh with people, and sometimes you can't get away with it, right? Because there are so many hang-ups in comedy. People are worried about, like, the things that we say now these days. People are a bit worried about people doing accents on stage, and there are some weird exceptions where you can get away with using it, because it is a universal truth we have to accept. Certain sentences are just inherently funnier in the right accent. And I'll explain what I mean by that, right? A couple of weeks ago, in my local supermarket, one of those places where you go to the butcher's counter at the back, they'll put your meat in a little bag, put a price tag on it, then then you pay for it at the main till. I was at the main till 2 weeks ago behind this blonde, massive, muscular, 6'4" South African gentleman. The only thing he was buying was this tiny little pouch of meat. The girl scanned it through the till, and somebody had clearly made a mistake, because she went, "That'll be £37.40, please." And he came back with the best sentence I've ever heard in a South African accent in my entire life. He looked her dead in the eye and just went, "Psst, I don't think that's right. That sounds like a lot of money for a couple of itty-bitty chicken titties." And like you, right, I couldn't help it. I giggled behind him. He turned round, gave me the death stare, and I thought, fuck, I've misjudged this. Genuinely thought I was about to get knocked out in Morrison's, but he must have been in on the joke, because the guy got right in my face and then used a very silly, very English word that I'm pretty sure no South African man has ever used before or since. He got right in my face and just went, "I'm glad you think this is funny. This is a right fucking kerfuffle." It's a ridiculous moment. Liverpool, you've been lovely. Enjoy the rest of your night. I've been Sam Gore. Cheers. Goodbye.